In today's episode, we're talking about a man who shot his stepfather and then called 911 to try and say that, somebody broke in and did it. Let's see how that worked out for him. Welcome lambs, welcome new lambs, welcome old lambs to Love and Murder, the Friday edition. If you're new here, hi, my name is Kai, and go ahead and listen to this episode, and then if you like it, go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss any more episodes. Before we begin, I want to remind you that this episode and all my episodes are sponsored by my lambs in Patreon, patreon.com/Love and Murder. Let's get into this Florida Man Friday. On July 4th, 2024, police were called out to a house along the 100 block of Numi Drive in Fort Lauderdale, Florida at around 10:50 a.m. The call that came in was about a shooting at that house. In speaking with the people who live in the area, police actually spoke with someone named Jesus Sarmiento, who says that shooting doesn't happen in this area. So this is not something that normally happens. This is a quiet neighborhood, a family neighborhood. So when police arrived, they found 44-year-old Christian Colon dead on the living room floor of his house. It's interesting to note that this house that I'm just talking so calmly about is a 5-bedroom, 5.5 bathroom, multi-million-dollar home. So 23-year-old Darien Massad Turner said he called 911 and he's the one who reported that his stepfather had been shot. However, shortly after he called 911, unbeknownst to him, his mother also called 911, saying that her ex-husband was suffering from gunshot wounds. She said it was her son who shot him. Darian was immediately arrested while police continued talking to his mother. His mother, Jessica Mossad, said that Darian had pushed past her to get into the house. Right after he pushed past her, he started firing at his stepfather. Well, ex-stepfather. She said although they had divorced in October of 2023, Christian had just now moved back into the house because they were, quote, trying to work things out. She didn't give a motive as to why he did this to his ex-stepfather. Nobody knows why this happened, and Christian sure hasn't come out and said why. Also, when police arrived and they were detaining him, they tried to put his arm behind his back with the cuffs, but he was in pain. He couldn't move his arm, and it turned out that his shoulder was dislocated. So he ended up being transported to the hospital and then the Fort Lauderdale PD. So he was charged with first-degree murder, and police are saying it seems like this was a premeditated murder. He's booked into the Broward County main jail where he's currently being held without bond. And when he went to his bond hearing, his arm was still in a sling. He's not saying how he hurt his arm. Nobody knows. Nobody knows why he did this, how he hurt. Nobody knows anything. And I did check to see if there was any updates on this case. There's literally nothing. Do you see how short this is? There's literally no updates, nothing. So right now he is in jail on first-degree murder with no bond. The judge did order him to undergo a mental health screening. So I guess that's what we're waiting for. I don't know how long that takes, but you can't really diagnose mental health in like a day. So it's going to take a while. So that's what's going on right now. No other word as to why, how, who, when, where. And that's where we are. So police are asking if you do have any information on this case to call the Broward County Crime Stoppers at 954-493-8477, 954-493-8477. And if I remember correctly, wasn't last week's Florida Man Friday? Didn't that happen on July 4th also? Wow, a lot of stuff was going down on July 4th, huh? So I'll post that Florida Man Friday in the show notes below if you missed that. That is all I have for you today. And before we end, let me go through some of your comments on our past Florida Man Fridays. So last week's Florida Man Friday, like I mentioned before, was a 13-year-old was found murdered in an apartment shed. The link to that is in the show notes below if you missed it. Oh my God. The rest of the title says serial offender is the person who is to blame. Serial offender. So listen to that episode so you can understand the serial offender part and how I can't understand how he was still out to go ahead and murder a 13-year-old girl. So the question I put out was, Do you think the murder is on the hands of the Orange County justice system? And I apologize, Lambs. I also meant to put that as a poll question under Spotify, and I completely forgot. Y'all have to understand, when I post this, it doesn't immediately come out on Spotify, so I have to remember to go back when it drops on Spotify and then post my poll question. And when I had initially put this out, a bunch of stuff was happening and I forgot to go back to put it in Spotify. So I do apologize, but you could always get the question in the Facebook group. I always post it in the Facebook group. Again, the link to that is in the show notes below. The Facebook group is called Love and Murder Beyond the Podcast. So just in case I forget to put it on Spotify, which I do sometimes, it's not a lot, but I do sometimes, you could always get it in the Facebook group. So anyways, the question was, do you think the murder is on the hands of the Orange County justice system? And Christina Bobo says, OC justice system most definitely has some blood on their hands. It makes me wonder how many other Jerrys are slipping through the cracks there. I don't want to imagine the horror the family and friends faced on that tragic day, and to learn that it could have been avoided had Jerry been deported or maybe held accountable for his prior actions. This is what I'm saying. As a family, I'm suing everybody, because anybody who was supposed to be responsible for either A, deporting him, or B, keeping him in prison, I blame them. That's my thought as a family, because if you had him locked up where he was supposed to be, or even not here, but still locked up in his country, I'm not saying just throw him in his country and let him do whatever he's doing, but even, in his country locked up, none of this would have happened. So I would be suing everybody. That's just me. And I do agree. I feel like they do have this is their fault to me. That's my opinion. Y'all may think differently. And I don't have a poll tally for this as I normally would, because I forgot to put out the poll question. My fault. And that is all I have for you today for this Florida Man Friday. I know it was really short. If you have any Florida man cases you want me to talk about, then go ahead and send them in. You can either email them to noconductradio@gmail.com, or just go ahead. There's a link to the request form in the show notes below. As long as it's Florida man related. It could be something not funny, something that's taken seriously. It could be something that is funny. As long as it's Florida man related, if you want me to go ahead and talk about it, go ahead and send that in. Don't forget to share this episode with everyone you know. So go ahead and share this episode with your mom. And if you have a stepdad, go ahead and share it with your stepdad and let them know that you'll never push past your mom to hurt them. And also share this with everyone you don't. So if you're in any true crime groups on your Facebook, go ahead and share this episode with them as well. So we're sharing it with everyone we know and everyone we don't. That is all I have for you this Friday, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye.